Welcome to the Culture of You podcast. All right, y'all. What's up? We in here today, y'all. We are in here today where I have meaningful dialogue with some of my favorite people. The Culture of You is a transformational storytelling platform, and this podcast is one way we do this griot work of sharing and archiving our stories. Before we get into our episode today, let's give it up first for our partner, Zora's House. That's where we are right now. Give it up for Zora's House. All right, we are on Summit Street, and you just come over here and you need to get a tour. Like, I'm just going to tell you right now, you need to get a tour. Shout out to the Emeritus Purple Door Cafe. Give it up for next season. We're here in the evening. And so my team, I definitely want to give a shout out to my team. 3E Multimedia in here is recording. All right, give it up for them. All right, we got Project Nest Solutions, Soul Dope ENT, and the EXO Collective on the admins and behind the scenes. Let's give it up for them. All right, and then, of course, my bold and healing sister and guest, we got Rhiannon Carnes and Jamilah Pitts. Let's give it up for them. All right, I have been told, and I knew this, that we have some introverts with us today, so y'all be easy, not too much on my guests today, okay? So let me give an introduction, and as I always do, I'm going to introduce you all with what I have, the information I've experienced with these folks, and then I'm going to ask them what else is living inside of them. So first, we're going to start with Jamilah. So Jamilah Pitts, the founder and CEO of Jamilah Pitts Consulting, a firm designed to support the liberation, intergenerational healing, and holistic development of students and communities of color through an emphasis on education and wellness. So she partners with schools, organizations, and leaders that serve and support BIPOC communities. She's been able to merge her passion for education and social justice and yoga and wellness into the services she provides for her clients. She's also an author. So we have a book, Towards Liberation, an essential guide for frontline educators to address systemic racial oppression, repair harm, and foster safe, liberatory learning spaces for their students. Also, when you're around Jamilah, there's just a certain type of calm that you get to experience that you can't really know until you're with her. So if you get a chance to check out those websites, get those services, you'll be doing yourself a huge favor. So give it up for Jamilah Pitts in the building. All right? Yes, that's right. And what else is living inside of you right now in terms of other than what I've said about you?
Thank you for that. Making the choice to be well. There's a lot happening in the world. There's a lot happening with family. There is a lot in my heart. I think for the past few years, I've been moving through various forms of grief. And there's a stillness in that. There's a quiet in that. And so I think I'm at the place where there's a great deal of gratitude and just choosing each day to be well.
That is a word heard for us. That is a choice, and that is an active choice, because we have a choice whether we are going to sit in stillness, whether we're going to sit in that discomfort, whether we're going to sit in that grief and move through it, or whether we're going to run around and put things in there and fill it up. So thank you for making that choice, teaching us all how to make that choice too. All right, I'm going to introduce Rhiannon real quick. So give it up for Rhiannon Carnes. Y'all are doing it, giving them the flowers they deserve. All right, so co-founder and executive director of Ohio Women's Alliance, advocate for reproductive justice, I think that's an understatement, community builder, pro-abortion, and a mom, and the daughter of a lifelong artist, writer, and advocate, Faye Childs. Rhiannon knew from a young age that if you want to see real change happen, you have to get to work. So Rhiannon is a black single mother, survivor of gun violence, and military veteran who could not be silent as extremist conservatives tried to chip away at the freedom, dignity, and humanity of BIPOC communities, especially black women. So Rhiannon turned to her mother for guidance and wisdom, who encouraged her to get to work. So let me tell y'all about how she got to work, okay? 2016, after that election, we all know what happened in that election, Rhiannon became the founder and leader of Ohio Women's March. No organizing experience before that. Just a small march with 100 volunteers and like 15,000 women and gender expansive folks in the Ohio streets walking towards the State House with Rhiannon. And then it was like, okay, well, maybe I'm into this thing. So became a field organizer with Planned Parenthood, Advocates of Ohio, where she worked for 2 years, right, before beginning to work with Aaron Scott to co-found what we now know as the Ohio Women's Alliance. And then in 2019, they did a listening tour All right, and so they figured out what the pillars of prosperity would be for OWA, and then in late 2019, we had the Ohio Women's Alliance, and then the OWA Action Fund in 2020. And so since then, Rhiannon she's not gonna be loud about this, but she's been in The Nation, in Elle, Harper's Bazaar. Last year, a 2025 Woman of Achievement by YWCA Columbus, named the 2024 Woman of Vision by the Miss Foundation, and named a Reproductive Justice Hero, and a 2022 Jane Bagley Lehman Award winner by the Tide Foundation. I did not get all of the things that Rhiannon has done, because I didn't even really talk about the ballot, because we're going to talk about that in the interview. There was a whole ballot initiative that went crazy for Ohio, and we're going to talk about that a little bit too. But give it up for Rhiannon real quick, because that's a lot. That's a lot. A star. A star. What else is living inside of you right now?
You know, sometimes I get overwhelmed listening to all of that because it's been a true journey. But I think one of the things that stands out to me the most is that you did mention that I'm a parent, but I am a parent of 3 generations. So I have a 29-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And so, yeah, that, just being in the parental role to so many, I've been an adoptive parent before, a bonus mom, has really shaped me in how I show up in the work. Just my lived experiences and my care for people and also how they care and love me back. So, yeah.
I love that. So I want to take a moment because I do have introverts on here, and I want to model how we love and care for our introverts, because truly about 90% of me is actually an introvert. And so we're going to ground real quick here in the studio, and I hope you are grounding with us at home. There's nothing more humbling and honorful and something I reverence than when somebody who is like actively doing this work is like, I want you to do it. And so I'm grateful for that. And so we're just going to ground real quick. I'm honored to be able to do this in this moment. So if you are seated, get your back up against something so your spine knows it's held. Get your feet on the ground if you are able. And if you're really next level and you want to feel your pulse and the life inside of you, go ahead and cross your wrists and your ankles. And we're going to start breathing real quick in through our nose and out through our nose. And in through our nose and out through our nose. And just finding our natural rhythm there. Everyone's rhythm is going to be a little different. And I want us to put our hand over our heart, or you can cross your wrist, whichever one feels better to you. And as we breathe in, I just want to take a couple deep breaths in through our nose, and then we're just going to let them out loudly as you need to. I'm going to step away from the mic so y'all don't hear me in all my glory. Deep breath in. Release. Deep breath in. One more. Deep breath in. Out. And as you just massage your heart a little bit, I just want us to remember that we are all arriving here together with all of our different stuff, but we're all here together on purpose. If you are watching this, you are supposed to be watching this right now. If you're in the room, you're supposed to be in the room right now. Everybody's going to get what they need. So take care of yourself. And if you ever feel a little soft and tender and you want to just rub on your heart, feel free to do that at any point in time, just to come back to yourself. All right, y'all, let's come back in the room slowly and surely, not too fast. It feels real good in here. I don't know if y'all can feel that on the screen, but we are feeling real good in here. Y'all feel real good?
It feels good.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's start with this question. When you think about being fully whole and not just surviving but thriving, what are the cultural lies we have to dismantle, and what does that look like?
Y'all looking at me.
When I think about surviving as a black woman, I think about the means and needs that we have in order to survive. And I feel like for us, people view us to we only need to have like water, shelter, food, and that's it, and anything else is a luxury, or anything else is thriving. And I feel like we need to like raise the bar. Some of the things that we've worked on together is really pouring and investing in Black women in their wellness, and I think that so we did an international retreat to Panama, and we sponsor Black women to be on a remote island. We literally bought out the whole island.
Come on.
And for me, that is survival, right? That's not a luxury. And you do so much work really like trying to change that narrative. I think we need, much more of that.
Yeah, you asked the question about the cultural lies that we have to dismantle or move away from. The belief that wholeness is something that we have to, the belief that wholeness is not already within us, right? So often I hear people talking about, well, not wellness, wholeness is something that we have to achieve as though we don't already arrive whole.
That's right.
And I think a large part of the journey and a large part of what I do in the wellness space is supporting people and understanding it really is about remembering. It is about coming back to yourself. So many of the ills and the isms that we see in the world, I believe, it stems from us not recognizing that we're already whole. And when we don't recognize that we're whole, we don't see the wholeness. We don't see the fullness. We don't see the beauty. We don't see the humanity in other people. And so I think that belief that we are not already whole is a large part of what we have to dismantle and move away from.
I love that. One of the affirmations that we talk about in polarity is like you are already whole and holy, right? Like you come in this world holy, because religion and other things will have you believe that you're broken and you need this external thing, all these external things to become whole. You have a thought?
No, I was just really, really processing what you said, and that we are already whole because society tells us that we're not, right? And I think that, to your point, like we know what we need, and it's for everybody else to get on board. It's not for us to have to like prove or define who we are. And so, yeah, it just kind of resonated with me like, yes, we are already whole. We already know what we need.
Yeah, I think about the words of Audre Lorde where she says, if I don't define myself for myself, I'll be crushed into other people's fantasies for me and eaten alive.
Whew. So I want to start talking about how you all found your journey, because I know that this is, I wouldn't say new, but this is a relatively different direction, for both of you kind of in the healing space. So Jamilah, will you talk a little bit about how your healing journey started, where you realized like, I already am whole and holy, like how can I heal myself so I can heal others?
Yeah, I'll go with the catalyst or the event that came to mind when you asked the question. My background is in teaching and in education, and I worked in education for over a decade. In New York, early 2020, I was working as a school administrator, and I remember talking to my therapist at the time, and she was encouraging me to take a medical leave. And I just felt like at the time I just could not. Like, I definitely had the time. I was one of those people that never used my PTO, and I used it as a badge of honor.
Right.
I was someone who felt like it was beyond just passion for the work. I just felt like I could not step away and take care of myself. But I also had the realization that if I did not pause, that my body or my mind was going to make that decision for me.
Absolutely.
And so I had the opportunity to go on a retreat to Bali, which is it was a really amazing experience. And while I was there, I resigned. It was February 2020 at the time, so I did not know the pandemic was happening. And when I came home, I was forced to bet on myself. And I had always thought that I would be an entrepreneur at some point, but I wasn't entirely sure what the journey would look like. And so I launched the consulting firm, and then a few years later, the wellness organization, She Imprints. And so to truly do the work that I do in the wellness space, I have to live it.
Right.
And so getting to this place that really felt like a bottom for me, having to move back home to Columbus, start all over, build businesses, just made it very clear to me that I cannot choose other things over myself. My work, while it is incredibly important, and I know how important it is in the world, for children, for Black women, my work is not my worth. Right. It is not more important than my health and my well-being, and so I live that out each day. I've experienced burnout. I have experienced and lived what happens when you don't sit with grief, when you don't sit with just honoring and listening to what your body is saying, and it's just not worth it.
Whew. Yes. Okay. I have a lot of thoughts around that, and I'm just thinking about, like, so you've done this healing work, and a lot of times I think it's only work because of capitalism. Like, I'm gonna just be honest. Like, I think that if it were just a natural part of existence and people were actually connected to themselves and each other, as you were talking about with humans, I think that would be a different conversation. But it is work because of capitalism, right? But thinking beyond that, what do you think about how you had to train your mind to say no? Because it's like nobody else is telling you those things. Nobody else is telling you
Correct.
that you're whole, that you have it in you. Everything that you have is all that you need. Like, you're not having people pour into you in that way just yet because you're, at the bottom. And I think COVID really helped us all with that space and time. Like, we just had space and time to really choose some directions that we were going to go. But how do you feel about the notion of, like, being that pioneer and being that person? And it's exhausting at times, too, to be that person that's always affirming yourself and kind of paving your own way in that healing sphere. So how did you navigate that?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct that the destruction of Black women is deliberate. Many of the conversations and the pushes that we hear around self-care and wellness, they are very much rooted in capitalism in many ways. And so the affirmation and the reminders to myself, I seek each day. First of all, it's a practice.
Right. So
I'm not perfect at it. It is a practice. It is something that I choose each day. I try my best to be embodied and to listen to what my body is saying. So, even thinking about this week, I have a very long list, as I'm sure both of you understand as entrepreneurs. The list never ever ends, and I went into this week with an idea of all of the things that I needed to check off of my list, and my body made it very clear, like, no ma'am, not just not this week. And because I have experienced being an entrepreneur and navigating burnout, I lost so much money in that space. Like, if you physically cannot do it, if you mentally cannot do it, if the drive is I'm going to continue to show up and to work hard because I need to pay my bills, because of just all of these different external things, when your body gets to a point that you can't, you simply cannot. And so I remind myself of that. There is a fear, but I think it's a healthy fear around, if my body pauses again, if my body stops again, if my mind is at a point where I cannot, what good am I to the world?
Yes.
And I run a wellness organization, so I cannot show up encouraging other people to breathe and to practice what it means to be well in a holistic way if I first do not practice that and live that. And energy lives. People feel that. Right. They feel when you are not operating in integrity. So it is, I think the practice and the affirmation may come from fear a bit of, like, not honoring my body and having experienced what happens when you don't. But it is also the belief that when we are well, I believe that it's tied to abundance, and abundance in every way. I think that when we are honoring all aspects of our humanity, I believe that we are able to be creative in ways that we would not be able to be otherwise. Just think about it. On the days when you have moved your body, when you have eaten really nutritious food, how productive you are versus the days when you are exhausted and dragging yourself through the day.
Absolutely.
Right? So I also see the benefits of practicing and living what it means to be well.
I love that. That is absolutely true. There's studies. Yes, that is all true. And I think that it's so important for us to really live on that integrity. And I think that's healthy. I do think that's healthy to be like your body, to have that relationship with your body where it's like, hey, you keep tripping. I'm not going to do right by you. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like,
Yeah.
it takes the time. It's the buildup. It's not going to just crash on you without
Correct.
giving you symptoms. It's not going to crash on you
Correct.
without telling you I'm about to crash on you.
Correct.
You know, so we got to listen to that. So as you two connected and you were doing this work, you know, hanging out with 15,000 of your besties in the streets. So what did that look like in terms of being like, okay, we need this arm. We need the wellness arm. We really need to enhance that arm of this organization, the work that I'm doing, the people that I'm doing it with.
Yeah, so my journey to really see myself really came through like fighting and resisting. And as you mentioned, in 2016, I started organizing. But I was able to show up because of all the things that I had been through. I was in the military in a heavily white male-dominated environment, experienced a lot of sexual harassment. I'm a gun violence survivor. And so for a lot of part of my life, I was like, why is this happening to me? And it wasn't until then that I really realized that there are other, actors and things in our society that has put me in this position. And before, I just blamed myself. I blamed myself so much. And when I started being around in community and other people and realizing like I am not the only one and there are others who are experiencing the same things that I am, that's when I really felt empowered. And so I, to your point, like kicking and screaming, yelling at, at the rooftops, please. But I got really, really tired. There was so many times where, after a march or I would just be so exhausted. I mean, I wouldn't sleep for days. I would go to Capitol Hill, to D.C. I was traveling. I was sleeping in my car. I was in the streets. Like it was really raw. And I remember talking to one of my colleagues at the time, and I was like, I'm so tired. I just need to rest. And she was like, take a nap.
Right.
That simple.
You'd be like, oh yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
I could do that.
And I did just that. But I was just like, we just don't know what we don't know, and we feel like we have to save the world and everyone. Mm-hmm. And, yes, my work is impactful, but things will move on without me, right?
Yes.
And I don't have to save everybody, and that's something that I'm still trying to learn and be in practice with. Mm-hmm. But Jamilah has helped me get there. And so, yeah, I mean, the wellness thing for me is still kind of ebb and flow. I'm still trying to navigate and figure that out because I carry so much. Like, I'm a mother, I'm an executive director, I have staff, I have people that rely on me so much.
Right.
I'm an empath, I'm an introvert, so everything matters to me. And it's really hard to be just in a position where I truly feel like I can listen to myself, but your body will tell you. This past year I had to have 2 surgeries, So like if you're not doing what your body is going to tell you to, it will sit you down. And so that's kind of like where I'm at right now, just trying to really see where that balance is.
Mm-hmm. And I love that talk about that it's a practice because it's not perfect. Like there's nothing perfect. It's perfect for what we need at that time. Mm-hmm. It's the lesson that we need at that time. It's the learning that we need at that time. It's the next step to whatever we are manifesting and whatever we're saying we want. That's the step that we need to get there. The best advice I've ever gotten was that every ship gonna sail, whether you're on it or not. That is the best advice I've ever gotten. Yeah. And I was like, man, you gotta check your ego a little bit, but it's like, it will. Mm-hmm. It will. And I think as I've watched organizing, just over the last decade, I would say, we have not, as an organizing group of people, done really well with stepping back. Mm. And then having someone else step forward, and that step back, step forward, that could be really supportive. So let's just talk about the initiative, the ballot initiative, because this was a huge lift. This was a huge lift. So 2016, 2017, talk to us about the ballot issue 1.
Yeah, so the ballot issue 1 was in 2023.
That's right.
Yeah.
My bad. Yep.
So for those who don't know, OWA, Ohio Women's Alliance, we are the only Black-led statewide reproductive justice organization that prioritizes abortion access at the intersections of democracy as a path to reaching full reproductive freedom. And the ways in which we do that is with power and strength. And we have a nonprofit arm, a C3, where we do a lot of direct service. And then we have an electoral and a political arm where we have a C4 and a super PAC where we do more intentional grassroots lobbying, really strategic targeting around policy and legislation that expand abortion access. And we also do accountability for actors, who are hostile in our legislature, who try to continue to oppress us and our voices at the ballot box. And so along with that, we do have a lot of direct services that we do, communal care, working with Jamilah. We are known for our political arm and our power building. And in 23, we were the only Black-led organization at the founding table for the Reproductive Freedom Amendment. And that's very powerful because we were beside legacy organizations that have been around for 100 years. So we were around white-led national affiliates, and we were the only in-state grassroots Black-led organization there. I remember talking to other, Black leaders throughout the country who had ballot measures, and excuse me, they did not have the power and the voice that we did. And one of the reasons why we were able to be trusted, seen in a more peer-to-peer support way, because we had these different entities, and we were able to, politics is about money, right? It's about money, and you have to pay to play. And so at that table, post, racial uprising, post pandemics, and definitely a calling for more equitable practices for Black leaders to be able to show up. So, there was discussions around, should we have, Black leaders and organizations pay to be here? And I said, no, I'm gonna pay my money just like you.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna respect me at this table and the decisions that we decide to make collectively together. So one of the things I have learned is in working with other Black-led organizations and leaders, diversify your revenue stream.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you can play just like they do, and stand in your truth and be out loud and bold about it, because no one was going to recognize OWA as at that founding table unless I told people, put some respect on our name. And I can't tell you how many people really try to claim that win for us, but we were the ones who raised $53 million for that campaign to be successful. We were the ones who wrote the language that is now enshrined into the state constitution. That is historical, and something I'm very, very proud of.
Yes.
That's so big. You ain't 53 million. Come on, it's just 53 million. And this is the quiet strength, and this is what I was talking about when I said Rhiannon's not going to boast about any of that.
Right.
It's a quiet strength, assertion, and confidence, along with a ton of competence, right? And so I think that you're knowing in that and being surrounded and hopefully feeling supported. I was at the at your awards gala.
Yeah.
It was so much melanin in that room, and it was just all love. It was a packed room, and it was so beautiful to be a part of it. But I hope you feel that, and so that can give people permission and almost courage, right? Because it does require a lot of courage to have that quiet strength and be like, no, that's what I said, and no, that's what we're gonna do, and then to go do it, and then come back and be like, yeah, like I said. You know what I mean? Like that's a whole cycle, a journey.
Yes.
That's its own journey. And so tell me a little bit about what you're saying to yourself in the mirror, or how are you going about putting your foot 10 toes down like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you're gaslighting yourself because these are things you've never seen before, especially when you're doing things that are unprecedented and you have people in your ear saying, no, it's not possible. And also, yes, it is tiring and it is exhausting. My team works really, really, like, I don't do none of this on my own. I have a whole team, a whole suite, behind me, to Jamilah's point, abundance, right? I'm only able to do this because of the abundance of support and love and care that I do have around me. But yeah, I'm constantly questioning myself, but I'm also constantly making sure that I continue to grow. We cannot remain stagnant, especially as, Black folks. Like, we can't just sit and do the same thing over and over and over again and still think people's going to acknowledge and or reward us. It's not going to happen. I always have to continue to be innovative, one step ahead, and making sure that I am pushing the boundaries and the limits because we are far from where we need to be. Yeah. And if I don't continue to do that, I just refuse. I just refuse to not do anything for my people in my community. And once I get one gain, I am going to push for the next. That's just where I am.
That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And I respect that. And I definitely operated on that. I think Achiever is one of my strength finders, you know what I'm saying? And I have to navigate that. It's like strength finders and also like I'm tired, right? So like you have to navigate that. I want to talk to you both about that conversation where community, right, is looking at you and they're looking for you to do certain things. And then you all are like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have this wellness. I'm going to fight back. How are you matching the narrative? Because externally they're telling you you can't do this. So how are you battling that narrative together, right? But also from a place of confidence, but also like gaslighting yourself. How are you all having those conversations about what wellness thing you need next or what accessory or support thing you're going to have there?
I could just share like how we approach like power building we call it building power with care. And for us, it's when I think about it at OWA and why we have all these different entities is because we know that, again, we're known for our political and our advocacy work, and we fight for rights, right, through policy and legislation. But we know that the right, if we don't have access to that right, then what good is it for us? And we know that the state is never going to, create paths to liberate us. And so for us, it's full circle. We have to fight, but we also have to care for our communities at the same time. And even vice versa for us, like if we are really deep in care, right, and accessing that care, we have to make sure that these people over here aren't trying to minimize what we're trying to give in our community because they are going to write policy and legislation with or without us. So we must show up. And also, there are times in the care that we provide that they are actually criminalizing us for accessing that right and care. So we have to be on both sides for strength and power, but also with love and humility and knowing and telling our folks that you are seen, that you are valued, and we love and care for you, and we will fight for you.
Yeah, I think about how liberation and care are synonymous. I don't believe that you can have one without the other, especially when you talk about our community, especially when you talk about the various ways historically and presently that Black women are warred upon. It just, we cannot be liberated if we are not well. I think about the words of Toni Morrison where she said the very function of racism is to keep you from doing your work. And so if we are not well, we cannot show up, we cannot fight, we cannot resist, we cannot push, we cannot, Dr. Bettina Love talks about the power of freedom dreaming. You cannot do that if you're not rested or you're not asleep, right? Or you're not taking the time to allow your body to be restored and to recover and to reset. And so the two go hand in hand. When I think about how racism and capitalism, they walk hand in hand. A part of enslavement was not just intentionality around destructing the mind. It was about also destructing the body. And so liberation also means that we have to be well.
Yes.
One of the things that we also do, because we're in the state house a lot, which is very oppressive and harmful, we're very selective in how we show up there. I think a lot of people, when they think about voting, they think about just elected officials, right? But they don't understand that they actually do work for us. And that was one of the things with the ballot initiative that was on the ballot. It was it was led by the citizens and ran, for the people. And so that was also kind of like a really full circle moment for me for doing advocacy for so long, but then being able to really fight against these politicians that have not been showing up for us in the ways that they should have, and not listening to the people, and then putting it back into their face. And so for us, it's not like aligning ourselves with those who oppress us in that house, in that state house, but being there, knowing that we are there to resist and also protect our people. And so for us, it's about like how you show up in spaces of harm that are still building modes and forms of protection.
And that has its own cost to you all, and you're walking in there with your eyes open, which almost requires even more wellness. This may be a messy question, but I'm cool with that. So like, as we see, I try not to be like, this is gonna sound crazy, reverse supremacist, you know what I'm saying? But like, I love being a black woman, and I don't ever want to be anything other than a black woman. So I'm gonna say that. The 92%, all of these things that we know about black women as far as being the most educated, as far as being, and black feminism talks about, securing power, like, because we know we will be good stewards of it. And I think that's something I'm actually wrestling with right now in the moment of working with people, working on their healing one-to-one in small groups, and then sending them back into places of harm, right? Like, so you're knowingly walking back into places of harm. How does that look like? So as you are power building, as you all are moving, like, you're not waiting for anyone, right? And how are you navigating the fact that like everybody can't come right now? They're not ready to come right now. Like, how does that deal with your spirit? Like, how are you navigating that?
Spiritually, that's not a problem. I mean, energetically, that's not a problem. Everyone does not deserve access to your energy. So you can, all of my work is people facing. It's facing the public. But my circle is very, very small. I would be depleted if I allowed any nobody into my space. I'm very intentional about who I allow to speak into my spirit. I'm very intentional about who is able to access my home. That's physically, but also metaphorically. We have to be, but especially when we're doing the type of work that we're doing, we have to be protected. We need all of the goodness inside. Like, we have to protect that. Otherwise, we cannot show up well for people. And when you talk about like everybody can't come, to add to the, who are you talking about though? Are you talking about people in the community? Are you talking about people in general?
Yeah, I would say the community and the closest first.
One of the unfortunate things that I've seen in movement spaces and spaces where people do liberatory work is that people are not, again, this is why the wellness piece is so important. There are a lot of unhealed people, and I don't say heal in the sense of as a destination. It is a constant practice. No one ever fully arrives. I see a lot of dissension in movement spaces. I see a lot of the lack of truth-telling. I see just a lot of unhealed people leading other people, and it is detrimental to the movement. It is detrimental to the work. And so it's another reason why I believe that these conversations about what it means to be whole and what it needs to be well has to be front and center, because you have some people who are, on one hand, criticizing the way that colonizers operated and the ways that they show up in spaces. But you have people who are upholding the very harmful practices that they are seeking to mitigate, and it's poisoning people, and it poisons the movement. And so everyone is, it's across the board. And so everyone cannot come. We have to be really intentional about, we have to do better about who we praise as leaders. One of my professors at Spelman, Dr. Michelle Haidt, used to always quote the artist Carrie Mae Weems, and she would say, there are other models by which to live. And so I'm really intentional about who I look up to as mentors and as leaders. I look at the fullness of how you show up in terms of your integrity, not honoring just other people's humanity, but your own. And so we have a lot of people who are doing really harmful work to other people, but it's hidden behind the powerful work that they claim to do for people. And so everybody cannot come.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just share personally, how that showed up for me. Because we do, abortion access and reproductive rights work, we were for so long viewed by our own ecosystem in the RJ sector and people that we were not reproductive justice, meaning we were not black enough because we advocated out loud for abortion access. And for me internally, I really was questioning for a long time about who I am. And I had to really search and dig deep and figure out the wholeness of what I represent. And it honestly really wasn't until the ballot measure for me to really be able to see that, yes, reproductive justice is more than obviously about abortion access, but so is abortion, right? I mean, people who want intended pregnancies need access to abortion. People are going into hospital systems and being denied care when they're having a miscarriage and left to die.
And we're already
because we
not
don't have
treated
abortion
well.
access.
And we're already not treated well there. And
so it took me to really stand in my power to be able to push back and say, yes, I am doing RJ work. Yes, I belong here. And yes, to your point, yes, it's harmful, but I choose to be here. I choose to be here. Maybe you don't want to be here. And don't say, people are preventing you to come because I'm here freely. And you can be here too.
Yep.
So to your point, not everybody is called to come. And I definitely believe that I was called to do this work.
So let's talk a little bit about conflict and grief. And then I promise we'll talk a lot more about world building. Okay, so... around this whole conversation around everyone can't come, that's understandable. I love the way both of you put that because I think that's something that we should be wrestling with as a community and as people where the quote that I'm thinking about from T. Brown, who does a lot of restorative justice and transformative justice work, was that community is where the person that you hate is. Or community is the person that you have the most conflict with is. And that's true. We don't always get to choose what community looks like, but as you realize that certain people that's, humans, we get there off their soapbox, right? That mentor, and you're like, oh man, they weren't about that life, dang. You know what I mean? You get there's some grief that comes with that. You're like, man, you ain't shit. Okay, so that hurts your feelings maybe a little bit. Is there grief that comes with those realizations? And in the work when you're somebody's opposing you and you're I never would have thought it would be you that was challenging me in this work. What's the grief that comes with that?
And tell the truth.
Please.
Sorry.
I experience it a lot. How do I say this? I just feel with success, there's a lot that comes with it, right? And people do start to show you who they are, and you really have to be true to yourself.
Just say it.
You can cuss on here if you want. just saying that.
It has been a very isolating and hurtful journey to be in the seat that I'm in. You don't have much representation, so there's very few people who you can lean on and or understand what you're going through and the experience that you're having.
Absolutely.
Also, they don't want us to get together either. Correct. So I'm looking at my girl over here. Right. She's one of very few, right,
very
that
few.
I can who understands, who've been where I've been. Erin Upchurch is sitting right here. And it's taken a journey for us to get closer because we're so busy with our lives and keeping us separated and apart. And I would say as you're navigating, through those hard times or with people who aren't who you thought that they were, there are others that you can lean on who are be there for you. So I was going to say something else, but I forgot. But I'm going to let you go ahead, girl.
Yeah, so about that particular piece for me, I don't know if there's a grief. It's a thank you for me.
That's right.
It's gratitude. When
I
people,
love it.
seriously,
there,
when
Jamilah.
people, we're already warred upon. There are so many things that are happening externally that we cannot control. And so I'm not grieving when I realize that someone next to me is low vibrational. It's a thank you. It's a thank you. I can remove you.
Yeah.
Yes, or put you in an appropriate space. Right? What is it? Many are called, but few are chosen.
Yeah,
Am I
it.
messing up the?
That's
yeah,
it.
and so it is. I've been in leadership for a really, really long time. When I was young, a lot of it was being appointed to leadership well before I thought that I was ready, and it is incredibly isolating. It is very lonely. But I think when you understand that your journey and your call, first of all, it's higher than you. It's larger than you. And so the strength and the power that you need it's within you, but it's also larger than you. And so you're able to rest in that. But also when you realize that some people are leeches, that some people are destructive to your spirit. And for me, especially, I'm doing justice-centered work, but I'm also doing work that's sacred. And I remember having a conversation with someone. Listen, I come from a long line, my maternal line of women who are truth tellers. Yes. And so I don't have a problem telling someone the truth. I don't struggle with people pleasing, never have, never will. And so it's a thank you for me. I'm clear about who you are. You can go over there. Thank you for your gifts and your strengths. But you can do that over there.
Ooh, I'm a recovering people pleaser, and as you were talking about Aaron is one of those people that will never struggle with people pleasing, and we always talk about this. We always talk because it really is a challenge, and I mean it's innate, right? Like it's organic. I can't help that I'm a people pleaser, or my childhood put me in that position, right? But that's why we need Jamilah. That's why we need Aaron, because we need people that are going to tell us like, no,
I don't care.
No, I gotta go. I gotta do this thing that I'm called to do, and either you're with me or you're going to go be over there or do whatever you're going to do, but I'm going to go. And I've always respected that, that part of it.
Yeah, because the people that we serve, the communities that we serve are impacted as a result. And so as a leader, if I'm not able to speak truth to power, what am I doing? If I am so weighed down because this person next to me chooses not to do their work or show up in a way that honors their humanity, it keeps me from being able to support other people in doing so, and it's just not worth it. But I also, at the end of the day, I just don't care. And so I'll have the conversation.
What sign are you?
I'm a Taurus.
Yeah. We need our little bulls. We need our bulls.
This is making me think about the weaponization of harm in community. I am too a people pleaser, but in our ecosystem and our movement, we're always really conscious of making sure that we are not inflicting harm on people and that we are remaining rooted in community. And so if you were, removing people out of your circle, then it's kind of like anti the work that we're doing. And so
don't cancel us kind of.
That's right. And so that definitely is an internal conflict and struggle with myself, even though when I know there are certain people who do not need to be in my immediate, intimate, close circle, but I am afraid of our movement and saying that I've been harmful and or not, leaning into the values. And that is an internal struggle, especially when you're in a position like I am.
And like the truth is, in community, we need each other more than we ever have.
That's right.
We need more grace. We need more empathy. We need more care and space. But
that does not mean that you don't need boundaries.
It is.
And it doesn't mean that you don't. People need accountability, people need boundaries, and people need to hear the truth. And what ends up happening is I'm also an empath. I'm also an introvert. I can't be poisoned on account of your stuff. Other people can't be poisoned on the account of your stuff. And I'm actually doing you a disservice when I don't come to you as a sister, or when I see it and I don't have the conversation. Like, boundaries are strength. Like, you can still be in the community, but you don't get access to my energy. You don't get to derail the whole show because of your ego, or because whatever issue you are having, because you lack maturity, because you lack the ability to be able to receive the truth and still feel secure and whole, right? Like, I can walk with you through that. You can pay my coaching fee, but you don't get to sit at dinner with me. And that's okay. You still get loved on in the process. But I think that there's a difference. Like, boundaries are okay. It's a part of care.
Yes, that is actually the next question. I have 2 more questions, and then I want to take questions from the audience, because this audience is going to give some heat. I already know. So I want to give some space to that. But around accountability, it definitely takes all parties, right? Accountability takes all parties. So how are you navigating those moments where is it a one and done? I mean, for you, I think it might be like one and done. But like, how do you determine whether it's like, because I say if I don't care about it enough, I'm not going to approach like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to look at repair, or if it's just me, or if it's one-sided, or if I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like whatever it looks like. How do you decide when you're going to engage with?
You spoke about restorative justice.
Yes.
And I think that is something, when I worked as an educational leader, but also as an entrepreneur, even in conversations that I'm having with people, the premises and the practices of restorative justice, I think, are very important, because they do honor accountability, and they do also honor care and community, right? A part of restorative justice is the ability to sit down in a conversation, sit down in a circle and have the hard conversation. Accountability and care are not mutually exclusive. And I think that there are a lot of things that we feel, well, if I'm doing this thing, or if I'm setting a boundary here, or if I'm having a hard conversation here, it means that I don't care. And the two are not mutually exclusive. Actually, if I'm not having the conversation, if I'm not holding you accountable, if I'm not encouraging you to become your highest self, I actually don't care about you. I believe that love and truth are synonymous.
I'm being coached by Jamilah. Right?
Listen. Let me say this. So yes, Rhiannon and I, we have these conversations, and don't worry, I'm not going to say too much. We have these conversations all the time. There's a ton that I am learning from Rhiannon, that I have learned from Rhiannon, and I know that there is a lot she's learned from me. I think the beauty is when you see our partnership and when you see what we're able to produce, you have to have that balance. Yeah. But I will also say that a person like Rhiannon, who does lean more into grace, a little more grace, and I would
knock it off.
Who leans a little bit more into grace, we have to protect her at all costs.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think, I'm thinking about some scenarios. I won't mention them. But I think it was important that we were both able to be a part of the conversation in this space. I think that both were needed.
Yeah, I definitely have to go take my stuff back to an errand or something and be like, hey, what's up with this? And, where do I say this, and what do I say with this? And I've gotten better at it. I get all my little bravery nuggets together, and say the hard thing and hope that it doesn't end this, or it doesn't, maybe I lose a client. Like, maybe I fire a client. Like, there have been times when I've had to do all of that. And I'm always trying to find my words and center dignity. That's the one thing I want to make sure I'm doing as I'm moving through my hurt, my pain, my betrayal, whatever that looks like, is like, I do want to try and center their dignity. But aside from that, I'm going to say what I have to say. And so it's taken me a while to get there, and we need those coaches. So thank you for.
And sometimes endings are okay.
Right.
I won't say that. Sometimes endings are okay.
I mean, you can say it. We kind of want to know it now.
Sometimes people need to find another community. Sometimes people need to find another community.
Right. And
or do the learning,
this one,
or do the learning
right.
somewhere else. But it's also a learning for us to learn to have the conversation.
Right. Absolutely.
It's okay.
Yep. All right. So one more question, and then we're going to take questions from the audience. Get ready, y'all. how have you been able to dream and consider what's possible? We talk about that rested and being able to be more creative. I mean, you're coming up with things like you've said you've never seen before. How are you looking at what's possible? How are you? Is Afrofuturism in there? Is world building in there? What are we doing in that? I mean, I know that I'm talking to higher ed. We could talk about that, but like, what are your practices around world building, visioning, dreaming, and Afrofuturism ish stuff?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm always going to lean into the reproductive justice framework. The reproductive justice framework is to have bodily autonomy, to have the right to have children, the right to decide not to, and the right to raise your children in a sustainable environment. And I totally believe that that is the path to complete liberation. And for me, it's being able to really embody that throughout all of my work. And the dream is being able to have a space, right? A space that has access to abortion, a space that centers birth justice, a space that addresses Black maternal mortality, all the things that we need to reproduce. Because if we don't have that freedom, we won't exist, right? And so for so long, so many people have been telling me, and the way that I approach the work, that my bodies of work has to be done in isolation. And so I think Full Circle would be able to hold all of that together, because our reproductive life cycles are so expansive. You know, I've had an abortion, I've had a miscarriage, I've adopted children. My life is not in isolation, and we should not receive care that way. So for me, it's being able to truly embody all of that in one place together.
Yeah, I agree. I'll just expand or not even expanding. I agree. I believe that Black women have provided the blueprint for what it means for us to center liberation. I think about the work of Octavia Butler and Audre Lorde and Toni Morrison, the reproductive justice framework, Kimberly Crenshaw's work, because I started to really think, like, what am I using? And it really is using the blueprint that Black women have already provided.
Yep.
I think for my work specifically, it's also making sure that healing and wellness and communal care are a part of that, because if we're not alive, right? If we're not here, then right.
And it's embedded in the work. Like, I think
Right.
that is one of the things, even with HR, and I do a lot of, culture work in organizations. It's like, oh, well, this actually isn't a side thing. This isn't employee wellness over here and then the rest of your existence
right.
as an employee over here. It's actually embedded in your experience. Where does your wellness sit? Where does your development sit? Where does your, all of those things sit there with that. So, yeah, thank you for that. All right, audience. Get up here and ask some questions. Yep, I'm going to hand you a mic. All right.
I do want to start with some appreciation and thank y'all for creating spaces, sharing spaces, occupying spaces. And I've had the privilege to observe you all in multiple spaces. And one of the things that I admire is the intergenerational work. I think it's something that is underexplored and underappreciated. And for folks who have not been able to observe you in those spaces, what are some tools or methods, maybe some strategies that we might be able to implement to invite both our elders and our youth into the work?
This is a really great question. So the work that I do through She Imprints is intergenerational in nature. When I thought about the fact that we serve at the intersection of wellness and justice for women and girls of the global majority, it has to be intergenerational. So much of what we learn about what it means to be well, what it means to care for ourselves, we inherit. A lot of these things have been passed down through generations, and so we ultimately do a disservice to the entire community when it is not intergenerational. And so for my work specifically through She Imprints, it looks like a comprehensive curriculum that focuses on well-being and care that is holistic. So it's considering what do we need to be mentally well, physically well, socially well, in terms of our spirits, what do we need to be well, but also financially, what do we need to be well, in terms of our sensuality and our reproductive health, what do we need to be well. And so there is a curriculum that's built for women of the global majority, and there's a curriculum that's built for girls. And the way that we implement that looks differently, but the through lines are the same.
Love that.
Yeah, for me, so I'm 47, and the majority of my staff are probably 30 and under. And so I believe that the reason why I can show up and give grace and understanding the way that I do with my team is also because of my lived experience. Like I told you, I have children that are 3 generations, so I don't have a choice, right, but to really be able to listen and, be attentive and understanding and empathetic of where they are. And I hear so often that young people in my generation, young people feel that they are not being heard, or they feel that, elders are saying that they need to struggle more, right, because of what we've been through, right?
They do say that.
And yes, and so, or that they're spoiled, or and my daughter, my 18-year-old, has a lot of problems with that. And one time, so I feel like my children have definitely influenced in the ways in which I can adapt to my team, but I also learn from them too, right?
Right.
If I don't really listen to them and really try to be not be paternalistic, right? And be more, I'm trying not to offend folks, be on their level, be on the same level,
Sure,
right?
Sure.
Then I can't grow and learn either.
Right.
And so I feel like it's full circle, goes both ways. But my work is what it is because of them. So.
Yeah, I love that. I will throw out, because I have a lot of intergenerational spaces. One thing I've noticed with the youth, absolutely. Listen, it needs to be I think the recycle sign, right? When I'm in conversation,
Yes.
with someone, anyone. But then I'm down for our aunties here. I'm like the auntie whisperer, almost here with some of the local, the names that you might know and then the names that you might not. But just sitting at their feet sometimes is I know a lot, but I can sit at their feet and not know anything and learn. And then they're going to open it up, because that actually is what happens. And they know that that's the practice as far as black women. I'm going to sit at your feet, but they're we have something to learn from you too. And then that just keeps it going. We don't lose anyone. I think that's why we've lost so many people in the movement, is because people didn't give that succession line or didn't give that listen line, right?
Yeah,
That's both. It's the succession line, legacy building and mentoring and pouring in. And there are several black, brilliant, financially vested women in this community that will give back.
Yeah.
And it's just about kind of finding those folks, and then also you got to put your ego down a little bit, and you got to listen. So
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good question? Yeah.
Me again. Hi. Also, like you did, thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and also thank you for your military service, fellow vet here. Woof, right now, right?
Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you.
I have just really been stuck on this point from at least the first part of the conversation I was in on, when you're talking about fear and how sometimes fear can be a motivator. I would like to hear from both of you, how much thought do you put in, as you're experiencing fear? Okay, is this a motivating fear, or is this a caution I shouldn't do this fear?
That is a fantastic question. It's not a quote, it's a scripture that I come back to is the connection between fear and love, and how perfect love casts out fear. That is a really great question. So a part of the line is, what is loving here? What is the pathway that is most rooted in love, even if I am afraid? I also have a healthy relationship with courage, and I think that I do a lot of things afraid, showing up afraid. If I feel, the other thing I go back to is my body. So if I feel that something is crippling, or I feel like I'm in danger, if my intuition is telling me that something is off. So I'm like checking all of heart space. I'm checking my mind. I'm checking what my body feels. And then ultimately it's like, it sounds cheesy, but it's true, but like, what is the pathway that is most rooted in love here? And if it's something that I'm just afraid and I just need to activate some courage, but this is the pathway that is most rooted in love, I'll show up and do that, versus, no, this is my body giving me signals that I'm not safe, or that I should choose another direction.
Yeah, I think for me, in the ways that I deal with fear mostly is around being afraid to fail. And so I feel like the way that I navigate through fear is really through a risk assessment of what it is that I feel like I might fail at, and also who else am I failing. And so I feel like that has really been the pinpoint for me to determine like how hard or how far do I push. But also I am learning that it is okay to fail. And I don't want to name it failure, but I feel like maybe it is okay to define alternative wins.
Come on, reframe. That's good.
So it's not, it's not a question of failing. It's a question of like, well, what did you gain out of that moment? And I think that's mostly my fear comes like, who am I going to let down? And am I going to let down myself too?
It's really good. Any more questions? What I will say to that is I had to take a lot of time, and for me as someone who is, I'm delayed in terms of, I'm an underreactor historically. And so sometimes I will have to take a moment to actually sit with it to see if the signals that are coming up are those signals that are like, no, this isn't safe. You know what I mean? And it takes me a minute to sit with them, because otherwise I'd be like, no, I could do this. And then I get there, I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, I got to sit with it. So that speaks to the slow down of the moment. So here we have another question.
Hello.
Hello.
I love you both so much. And thank you for your work. Thank you for your wisdom. I have the privilege of knowing both of you outside of here, and so I can say, like, you are exactly who you say you are, and this is real. Jamilah, I didn't know that you had so much heat in you. Like,
I do.
I was like, oh.
That's why I keep her close.
I do. Yeah,
I mean, I knew I'd like to be around you.
well, we've been, it's the balance. It's the balance. We've also primarily been in wellness spaces, but it comes out when it needs to.
Yeah, I like her. All of you. But yes, thank you very much for the work, and I love that you said something about having a relationship with courage. And I was sitting back there, and y'all were talking, and I know Karen, you asked about the future, and I got a little teary-eyed for multiple reasons, and it's Pisces season and blah blah blah. But I thought, like, this is part of my vision of the future. I didn't know little girl me would have, I think I envisioned having relationships with Black women and being in space, and not just like, oh, we're playing together, but like peers and folks that you can have hard conversations with. I've known Rhiannon, I think it's almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And like you said, the ebbs and flows, and like that's so real and it's so true. I love the truth and truth telling, and it's real. So I want to just thank you both for that and the ways that you are in my life, and you pour back into me. So it's regenerative. My question to you is, what parts of your younger self are alive in you right now, and what do you think she would say to you?
So because you mentioned the fire, I was very, very shy and very quiet and and this is probably why I get so like protective of you. I was very, very shy. I was very quiet, very gentle. And I do think I still show up mostly. I think that's the first way I probably. I don't know what you think, Danny. I think that's the first, but I don't know because Danny and I also attended Spelman together. And so that's a whole, I probably showed
That's
up
so
with
cool.
a lot of heat there too. But
You're also amongst black women, so like,
correct.
like, you know.
But I was very, very shy, very quiet. I don't know that my voice, I grew up in a home and a family with like, again, very loud, very vocal black women. And so I don't know that I didn't have a voice, but I just was very shy and I was very, very quiet. And also a very sensitive soul and a very sensitive child. So all of that still lives and it still guides me. But I also have to show up sometimes with the fire and with the boundaries and with the truth telling to protect her. And so I think, thank you for the question. And so I think my little girl, when I sit, there's a picture of myself when I was younger that I constantly look at. I think that she is weeping like tears of joy for me. I think that she is so grateful, but I am also so incredibly grateful for her. I'm thinking about when you are really quiet sometimes, and there is a quiet strength that people have that I can show up with. I prefer to be quiet and I prefer to listen, but I can also speak loudly and boldly and speak truth to power. But sometimes people walk over you and they take advantage of you. And so I think about and I honor all aspects of her, including the ways that people maybe tried to take advantage or did take advantage because of the sensitivity and the quietness and the shyness. The brilliance has always been there. The love of learning has always been there. The love of children, even when I was a child, has always been there. Yeah, but I think she's really grateful for the fire.
Yeah, the whole time you were hearing, all I heard was thank you. Like, you know, like saying thank you. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
So I'm the oldest of 4 siblings, and so growing up, I always had to care for my younger siblings, and I truly feel like that's how I show up in the work today. But, you know, throughout my years, I really didn't have a lot of support systems. And so I thought that's kind of was normal. Like you had to do the things on your own, that you weren't really allowed to ask for help. I was ashamed to ask for help or to be very, you know, vulnerable. And the moment I started opening myself up, the more relief I had, the more I could rest, the more happier I was with myself. And so I think, you know, my younger self again would thank me, right? Would thank me and knowing that I don't have to carry the weight, you know, of so much on my shoulders alone. It was a very, very hard place for me for many years of just being in isolation and solving everyone's problems and not setting the boundaries. And I'm just thankful for how far I've come.
There's a cost. There's a cost to it all, and can't afford the cost of not doing it, right? Like not doing the work anymore. There comes a point where you can't afford that cost of not doing it anymore. I'm going to ask one more question for you all. Where does joy and pleasure sit in your life, in the healing journey, and how much attention are you able to give to it?
So I don't know that I can speak about the pleasure part on your podcast, but
I mean, YouTube's not going to shut it down, is what I'm going to say.
a part of my curriculum especially for women of color is pleasure. And all of the ways that we tap into that. Pleasure and joy were not always a part of my vocabulary, so I am enjoying leading a life that is rooted in joy and pleasure and all the ways that you're probably thinking.
Yes.
So that is a part of it. And also, you know, I think about Adrienne Marie Brown's work around pleasure activism, which I think is incredibly important, but also a guiding light for me is The Uses of the Erotic by Audre Lorde, where she talks about how a lot of different things
Listen
in there,
to it,
but
read it.
the the heart of it is that when you tap into and you honor something that has been intentionally suppressed, oppressed, repressed, like there is so much power there. And so a woman, particularly a black woman who taps into her sexual pleasure and her sexual power is untouchable, right? Because if I'm powerful in this place, I'm going to be powerful everywhere.
Absolutely.
And so that's a part of it. And then joy, just learning, each day I ask myself, like, what is your joy thing for the day? So rather than allowing, having published and done a lot of work and still, in the liberation space, that can feel really heavy. And I can lean towards like heavy in depth. And so this season of life and the upcoming seasons of life, I'm really intentional about and looking forward to what does it look like to live a life that's rooted in joy and pleasure.
Yes.
I am definitely working on it. I feel like
Like I am being coached by Jamilah. That's so great.
yes. Yes, that is why Jamilah's here. A lot of my pleasure and joy truly rests outside of me. Like I really need to do the work to tap back into myself. So ask me that question in about a year. But
Okay, all right.
but I will say, and how it shows up outside of me is through my work. Yes, it is through
I
my
feel the same. It's
children.
okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
it's really hard. But I will say, as I'm learning to tap back into myself, hopefully within the next year, I'm hoping to take a sabbatical. Lord Jesus. So my plan is to do that on the top of 27.
Okay.
And to really think about,
Okay. Yes.
all the things that I want to do. But, and also like, thinking about the legacy of OWA and that I will not always be in this position, right? And so thinking about that journey and that pleasure and that joy of being able to build something to last beyond me.
Yes. Me too. Still
Yes.
working. Still
Yes.
working to not be as enjoyed and to enjoy work as much as I do. But I think it's also about the people that I work with too. I'm surrounded by millennial black women and women and queer folks, and it's just a whole different conversation. Like I enjoy talking to them. I enjoy going to work. I enjoy being with people that I work with. So. Cool. Well, that was an amazing conversation. There's so much lingering, and I think this is going to live in a lot of different ways for a long time. And so thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing up vulnerably. Thank you for knowing exactly who you wanted to have come with you.
Can I just offer some gratitude around that?
Yes.
So Rhiannon could have done this by herself. But it speaks to, and I think it's so important because the way that you show up in the world, like there are some things that are very loud and people are able to recognize and to honor that. But I don't think that people understand and recognize and know truly how generous of a soul you are. I don't think that people, I'm so grateful for, I connected with Rhiannon when I was still living in New York and trying to figure out what life was going to be. And Rhiannon was just so generous with her time and pouring into me, and that has not stopped. The ways that I think that we can do better in the Columbus community with being more inclusive, with being more, there is this weird energy here that's rooted in it's like a weird political energy. It's very exclusive. It's very exclusionary. It's very, if you don't know this person or you don't do this thing, you don't get invited. And I am always so excited when Rhiannon gets the flowers that she deserves because your energy is not of that. It is always about bringing other people to the table. And what is so destructive about that exclusionary energy is it blocks innovation and it blocks communal care and it blocks our ability to move forward. And so I thank you for not only just seeing me and you didn't need me to be a part of this conversation, but that is your heart. And your life will continue to be abundant because you operate in that way and not in this fake kind of performative way. It is truly your heart, like it is the depth of care that resides within your heart. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the time, the energy, the conversations, the ways that you pour into me, the gratitude and the trust that you extend to me, our amazing partnerships that we've had, the beautiful things we've been able to create together. But I didn't want to leave this space without naming that.
Thank you, Jamilah. She always makes me want to cry. But you have showed up for me in so many ways, as you all have seen here, and I feel... Jamilah.
I love that. I wonder if that ever is like in conversation when you're talking to somebody like, I need to go talk to and I'll be back with the answer. Please do that.
I've been
I'll
brought
be
to
right
it.
back, actually. I'll talk to you
I
tomorrow.
do a lot.
We've created full events around
Yeah.
Rhiannon not wanting to be in this space by herself without me.
Yes.
Oh, there was another person that was supposed to be here, but
Yeah.
they couldn't physically be
Yeah.
here. So if
Yeah.
you want to speak her name into the room, you can. But I was
Stacey
like,
Hall.
yeah.
Stacey Hall, she's a black female nurse practitioner and is now becoming an abortion provider, so shout out to her. But she's on my board, and also Jamilah serves on my board too. So I'm always just grateful to be surrounded by powerful, amazing black women, and whenever I have the opportunity to uplift them, I will definitely do that.
And let's blow up the myth of that I can't work with my closest friends. Like, actually,
right.
let's do all of this together because I trust you with my
That's
life.
right.
Like, let me do that because I trust you with my life, and you know the ins and outs of me, and you know how to call me in, and you know how to bring me back to grounded. So I think that's beautiful. Thank you for modeling that and showing that relationship for us. And you thought about it. You thought about it for a while. We've been talking about this really since I started 10 months ago. But like, you thought about it, and you were like, I want these two to come with me. And I think that's,
Yes.
you weren't, I never wanted you to do it alone, but you were like, no, I'm going to have these two people. So that was cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being open and receiving.
Oh, please. Yeah. Come on.
And thank you, Karen. You know, I've also been able to have access to your energy, quite literally.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
I don't know what I was going through that particular month, but I needed to get on your table. And so I thank you as well for just the way that you show up in spaces, the way that you curate and hold spaces. The type A in me needed to know all the questions, but then I was like, I trust Karen.
I was like, you can have questions.
So thank you.
I can't guarantee I'm going to ask all of them, but you
Thank
can
you.
have them. Yep.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
it's not easy to show up in the ways that you choose
Thank you.
to show up in the world and in spaces, and so thank you.
Thank you. It is absolutely a choice. I appreciate you acknowledging that. All right, y'all. We've done the mushy thing. We've done it. I hope you're crying at home. We're going to take a break between seasons 3 and 4, and we will be returning to Zora's House next season. So give it up for Zora's House. They want us back. Yeah, Zora girl. Yeah, Zora. And so in June, we will begin June 25th. We will start recording because our Emeritus Purple Door Cafe is no longer with us. We are going to turn it into some fun wind down. So it'll be Thursday nights, typically. Fun! Oh, wine. Wine? I'm not going to slap any wine out of anybody's hands. I'm just letting you know. So the June 25th, we're at 6 o'clock. You know, come with BYO beverage and do what you need to do. But we will be in here, and it will get rowdy, I'm sure. So thank you all for being such fantastic guests. Audience, thank y'all for being an amazing audience. Y'all, give it up for yourselves one time. Y'all are amazing. All right. Head on over to Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube to watch seasons 1 through 3 at Culture of You 8728 on YouTube. And we will be back June 25th. Please be gentle with each other and be gentle with yourselves. Thank you so much for being with us. Peace.